We're back continuing a conversation with Tony Keene, President and CEO of IFMA. Tony, your organization is based in Houston, your service center of excellence, but that doesn't mean that all the employees are in Houston.
That's correct, Art. What we have been doing is, as IFMA as an organization, is we've been trying to kind of walk what we preach and walk the walk and walk the talk. And we have implemented a whole new scale of workplace in Houston, and we call it our Service Center of Excellence. It is all unassigned space. We also have adopted a mobile work environment where that allows us to hire staff and employees where the talent's at, not necessarily restricting that to Houston or go through the expenses of relocating somebody to Houston. So yeah, we have staff from coast to coast in the U.S. that help support our members, as well as in other countries as well. We actually have some contract staff in India now as well, which is a whole new venture for us. But our members are spread out over 85 different countries, so we have to be able to support them the best way possible. And our Service Center of Excellence strategy is to locate service centers where our members are, so we can provide them the best service possible.
And some of those employees work at home, I guess, in these different locations, which is an added advantage from the standpoint of some employees who don't have to commute, and it adds a couple of hours perhaps to the workday because, at least in LA, you got an hour each way almost anywhere.
Absolutely, and Houston's similar to LA in terms of being very spread out, and a lot of everybody likes to use their cars. So what we are, from our perspective, what we wanted to do was to make sure that we were acting in a sustainable manner and being responsible with our environment, as well as creating an opportunity to increase employee satisfaction and employee productivity. So instead of a staff person waiting in traffic for an hour, they can be sitting at home working, and through the advancement and implementation of technology, we allow them to do that and then come in either later or work completely from home.
And also, when you think about it, it increases the pool of potential employees that you can draw upon, because instead of just being able to employ people who live in the greater Houston area or who are willing to relocate,
that's right,
you can draw upon people anywhere.
Right, and this is obviously not for everybody. I mean, you have to have a certain type of self-discipline when you're working from a home environment, and it also requires your management team to go through different types of management styles and perspective in terms of making sure that you're still getting the performance out of your staff. However, when it works well, it really does, and it allows just a wonderful improvement for both work-life and, today it used to be called work-life balance. Now we call it work-life integration, because we can't get away from our cell phones and our email.
Now, you're the president and CEO you're the top guy in this organization, and yet you gave up your big office in this new Center of Excellence.
I did. Obviously I have a place I sit when I'm in the office, but I travel a lot. See, so when I'm out of the office, my office or my workspace area is a conference room, and anybody's free to use that. So it's not the CEO's office.
And real estate is a major expense to corporations, second only to the personnel costs.
Right.
So if you can reduce the square footage that you need, it's a real cost saving.
It is a cost savings, as well as making the office a tool, not just necessarily your cube. And so we were able to save we reduced our footprint by about 45%.
Wow.
Which is huge, and it makes a huge difference in terms of our rent costs over the next 10 years.
Absolutely.
And now, when people and our staff are looking at the office, they look at it as a resource in terms of all the different aspects of the office based on what they need to do that day. They don't look at it in terms of saying, okay, how do I set up my little tiny workstation, and how does that work for me? And then such and such buddy down the road or down the aisle has a bigger office.
And that probably helps with the silo effect, where departments are departmentalized,
right,
and a lack of integration within the organization.
Yeah, we've already seen where it really has helped understand staff from different departments understand what other departments are doing, because they're sitting right next to each other during the day, and we like to have the staff rotate around to make sure that happens. But this really talks about how facility management and what the impact it can have on the workplace, and how it can really drive productivity and innovation. And that's where we see the future of FM, is that getting the organizations, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector, truly understand the value that facility management can bring to the table. Wow. Because they can make a huge difference to the organization and the outcomes.
Talk a little bit about the green environment and how what you do impacts energy savings in other green areas.
Sure. Worldwide, we see countries passing targets to reduce energy, to reduce water consumption, and depending upon where the area is, here in Southern California, you've got huge water restrictions, and water is a very, very precious resource. Some people actually say water is the new gold of tomorrow. Passing restrictions and saying, okay, these are your new targets, that's great. However, how are you going to achieve them? What are you going to put into place to achieve them? You can say, okay, let's put some technology in place. Well, that's great. Now then, who's going to monitor that technology? Who's going to actually implement the processes and the procedures to actually achieve the results that everybody's driving for? Facility management. And that's where the rubber meets the road in terms of being able to achieve the energy reduction targets and the water reduction usage targets.
And as FM rises in the corporate food chain, these changes will become more pronounced.
Absolutely, and I think it just goes back down to is looking at how facility management can actually integrate multiple different disciplines and leverage those to bring out the strengths, so then they can be aligned with the strategic direction that the organization wants to go. That is crucial to how organizational success in the future, and FM can play a really nice role in that aspect of things.
Great. We'll be back with the rest of our show after these messages.
I believe in the foundation because it's a great way to get involved and contribute in the ways that you can to making this a better world.
I believe in the IFMA Foundation because I believe that an investment in the foundation is an investment in the future of FM.
And I'd like for every member to find a way to believe in the foundation and to find a way to contribute.
I believe in karma, what you give is what you get returned. I believe you can appreciate your love till you've been burned. I believe the grass is no more greener on the other side. I believe you don't know what you've got until you say goodbye. I believe in karma, what you
Take care of those who are closest to you, from our family to yours. McCarty's Jewelry, since 1932.
Phil Trainees mixes California style with continental cuisine that includes fresh seafood from around the world. Since Phil is the chef, the menu has a wide variety of pastas, salads, soups, and appetizers that feature his unique personal touch. And the Italian-American signature dishes are simply beyond delicious. You never know who you're going to run into at Trainees, from the famous sports legends on the Wall of Fame to local celebrities having a drink at the bar. For the best fine dining experience, visit Phil Trainees.
Well, facilities management is a fascinating field, and as you heard earlier in the show, there's tremendous demand for people trained in this. So if you have a friend or a young man or woman who is thinking of a career, think facilities management. It's an exciting field of the future, and there are many jobs for every graduate who is trained in this field. And thank you so much, Tony, for joining us and sharing some of this fascinating stuff. I know next week on the show we'll be focused on the IFMA Foundation.
Right. Well, thank you, Art, for having me. This is a great honor and privilege to be on your show, and we really enjoy that aspect of it. And next time you're out and about, whether it's in the public or the store or your office environment, think about the masters of the invisible. If everything's working, then that's a great thing. And but just don't forget that it takes a lot of effort and strategy and implementation to make that all come together.
Thank you so much, and thank you at home for joining us. Please be with us next week for the next edition of Straight Talk. Good night, everyone.
Straight Talk has been brought to you by Southern California Edison, the Press Telegram, and remember, Straight Talk is viewable worldwide 24/7 at straighttalktv.com.